You may be seated. Next, we will have our Mayoral Greetings by Mayor Ron Nirenberg, our San Antonio Mayor, followed by Congressional Greetings, U.S. Congressman William Hur, 23rd Congressional District. Following that is our State of Proclamation, Senator Jose Mendez, Texas State Senate District 23.
Good afternoon. What a day the Lord has blessed us with. It was the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King who said that the quality, not the longevity of one's life, is what's important. Today we gather to honor a man whose life was cut short, but whose days were of such caliber and quality that we draw inspiration in the own longevity of our lives in a fight that simply has not ended. 33 years ago, the march that will take place tomorrow was recognized officially by the city of San Antonio. But we know the first steps of that march began over 50 years ago here in our city of the San Antonio. So I want to thank the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, all of the residents of this beautiful city who gather for a fight against injustice, intolerance, racial bigotry, and all of the powers of exclusion that continue to exist in our world, in our communities, all across this state. Thank you. Let's continue to remind ourselves and our children why this march will continue long into our own days. God bless you all.
Good afternoon, San Antonio. You know, I was sitting over there with my sister, and I heard the person singing the Star-Spangled Banner. I was like, man, whoever's singing that sounds like Whitney Houston. And then she leaned over, you dummy, it is Whitney Houston. But do y'all know at the end, the Star-Spangled Banner actually ends in a question. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. When this was written, it was 2 years into the War of 1812. And Francis Scott Key wrote that to say, is that flag still flying over Fort McHenry? When the song was originally written, it was a technical question. Did the fort fall? Now it is a philosophical question. And are there still people fighting to make sure this is the land of the free and the home of the brave? In San Antonio, y'all are doing that. Y'all are an example for the rest of the country. Everybody asks me all the time, why does San Antonio have the largest march in the world? San Antonio has the largest march in the world because here in San Antonio, we believe that way more unites us as Americans than divides us. Here in San Antonio, we believe that we should judge a person by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. We live in divisive times. We are in unsure times. But San Antonio, know this, you are a beacon of light for this rest of this country. And so I'm proud to be able to call the Alamo City my home. I am proud to represent a city in Washington, D.C. in a body that used to think we were 3/5 of a person. But it was San Antonio, Texas that sent a black man, black Republican, by the way, to Washington, D.C. That's the example we're sending to the rest of the world. I'm proud to join the 999 others that are going to march tomorrow. And God bless you, and may God continue to bless these United States of America.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, as I was listening to Congressman Hurd speak, I was thinking to myself, Congressman, I know you're retiring, but if you ever choose to get back in, we got room on another team for you. But then again, not any team can have all the smart people, so I'm glad they have you over there, Congressman. But as I was listening to the mayor and the congressman talk about why we're here today, we're here today to send a message. The message that our good friend Congressman Hurt was talking about, the message to Washington: we don't care how broken you may be. We're going to show you how united we can be. It is an honor to be here as we commemorate the life and the legacy and the sacrifice of a great American, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But let us not forget that when Dr. King was telling the nation these truths that we know and hold evident to be true, he was not held in the highest regard. Remember, the nation was not all on board with what we know to be the right thing. So let us not forget the spirit of Dr. King, who was willing to stand up to power and tell them the truth. Never forget that the reason that I believe that we hold Dr. King to be the wonderful and great leader that he has been for our nation in this world is because he did not care if it was popular. He did not care if who was against him. He did not care who was threatening his life. He would not stop telling the truth to everyone. So folks, as we move forward in our lives and we work hard, let us always remember that the truth is what will truly set us free, and the truth is what brings us together. And I think that's the secret to San Antonio in many ways, is that we know the truth is what you said, that we share so much more in common than things that separate us. And so that whether it is we're here celebrating, and it's good to see my friends from the Cesar Chavez March who also bring a big contingency and we celebrate together, that we're one nation. And for those of us who believe that God created us in His likeness, let us not forget that it doesn't say in His likeness for those who are brown, or in His likeness for those who are black. We are brothers and sisters. Right, Mayor Dennis? So my job is to provide this certificate of congratulations on behalf of the state of Texas. And I'm going to read: the Senate of the state of Texas, to all whom these presents shall come, certify, is presented to the San Antonio Martin Luther King Jr. Commission in recognition of the citizens of San Antonio for their commitment to honoring the life and legacy of Dr. King by exemplifying the principles of justice and equality for all. I present this on behalf of not just Senate District 26, which I'm proud to represent, but also as the chair of the Texas Senate Hispanic Caucus on behalf of my colleagues in the whole Texas Senate. We are very, very proud of each and every one of you and all of us who will be marching tomorrow in the world's largest march of this country. Amen.
Can I have Commissioner Petty, Councilwoman Sullivan Andrews, Congressman Hurd, can you come up as well, and Mayor, just so we can take a photo, please, with us.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Good job.
Mr. Dorothy. And Mayor Mary.
Where do you want us? Sideways this way?
Mayor Dennis as well.
Mayor Dennis, come in here, Mayor. She's always dressed in pink.
Her dress is popped and
Mayor Dennis.
okay.
There you go. Who do we present this to? You want to hold on to that? There you go. There you go.
It'd be better if you guys came on this side.
All right.
Okay.
Go whatever you want us to do.
Do whatever they tell us.
Yeah, just like this facing me this way. Right there where we are.
All right, we'll come back in. Come back in.
And then I'll give you a 3 count. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. I'm good.
We want to thank everyone for their participation. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask all elected officials that are attending to just please stand. We did have a sign-in going on, but it was we're honored that so many of you are here. But if you're currently serving at an elected office, if you would just please stand if you have not already been acknowledged. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. I'm also going to ask any former MLK commissioners, if you're present, to please stand. Thank you. And while I have Miss Dorothy Collins, if I could sing, I would. Miss Collins remains standing. Today is Miss Dorothy's birthday. She served as an MLK Scholarship Chair for many, many, many years. Happy birthday, Miss Collins. I'm not going to tell them how young you are, but happy birthday. Also, any dignitaries, I think I saw the Queen of Soul. Are they present? If you all will please stand and be acknowledged as well. If I've missed any other royalties, especially any with our youth that are present, president of maybe NAACP youth chapters, anyone just stand to be recognized. Thank you. And then I did want to say, you know, Johnny Sachs every year renders music for us with the national anthem as well as pre and post. We need to keep Johnny in prayer. He had a small accident and he fractured 3 ribs just yesterday. And he was trying to insist that he was going to make it. So that's why instead we had Whitney, okay, today, since Johnny wasn't here. So I'm going to turn this back over to Taylor.
Now we will have Mr. Ernest Martinez from our Cesar Chavez Legacy and Educational Foundation, followed by a memoriam for Reverend R.A. Callis Sr. by the Callis family. Following that will be our introduction of our speaker by Travion King, and our speaker will be Thomas W. Dortch Jr. Thank you.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. What an honor it is to be among many leaders gathered today as we unite to share our love and pay tribute to a great humanitarian, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. To see the spirit of Dr. King alive and well in San Antonio is a blessing for our city. But equally important to point out is the beautiful blessing of seeing his legacy and spirit endure throughout the many decades, despite the fact that there have been forces along the way to inflict injustice on our communities, on the poor and the weak. My brothers and sisters, Dr. King's message leads us many times on the road less traveled, but together we are unstoppable. 56 years ago on August 28, 1963, the speech of all speeches, for all time, the I Have a Dream speech, was the spark for our nation at a time when people of America needed it most, and helped our nation shift the mindset of that of fear and hate to that of faith and justice, and ultimately for equality. Dr. King built bridges of justice because it was the right thing to do. Those bridges were meant for all of us to cross. Today we should hear more about building bridges than building walls. But powerful sources are emerging and gaining momentum in their attempt to build those walls. And don't be fooled, because those walls come in many forms. Cutting food program assistance for our families. Lack of representation through unfair redistricting. Walls at the border, we've heard enough about that. And yes, even walls that are trying to go up in our own backyard to detain migrant children so that private prisons can profit off of misery. That is an injustice. How about bridges for education? Bridges for unity? Bridges for peace and nonviolence? My brothers and sisters, Let's unite and rise up with faith unshakable, faith in Jesus Christ to get us through the hard times, and faith in one another. Martin Luther King once said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. I'd like to close with a special tradition started by the civil rights leaders Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, referred to as the unity clap. Everybody please stand up and let's join together in the unity clap. Now the clap that starts off very slow signifies the slow momentum that it takes to organize and build together and the struggle. But as we come together, that momentum builds up. And that's where we win through those struggles and conquer together. Viva Dr. King! Viva Dr. King! Viva Dr. King! God bless you.
Yeah, I'll have that for the person. Okay.
You know, the thing about programs is they can change at any point. I always call it a working program. And I'm going to stand here and just tell you guys, if we haven't all been through a whole lot of challenges, just in general, trying to get these activities pulled off, every program, everything, the devil has been busy, but we stand here to decree and declare that he is a liar, because we're all here, we're all celebrating. And I'm also an obedient wife. We had a video DVD that goes along with the Negro National Anthem that I have been instructed by my husband, and we're playing that video. For some reason, it wouldn't start earlier. So guys, y'all don't have, let's just sit through this real quick, and then from there we'll pick up with the memoriam from R.A. Callis. But he wanted everybody to see this video, so that's what we're going to do. Okay? Awesome. Thank you all. As I watch that, it is different. Even though we sing and we hear it, it's good to see. It made me think about my ancestors, my mother, and all of them. Doris, will you please come forward and give your father his acknowledgement as well, and then we'll pick back up with the introduction, and then Mr. Dorch will come up as well.
Good afternoon. I am Reverend Callis' oldest daughter, Doris, and in behalf of my mother, Mrs. Callis, Eunice Callis, who passed away 3 months ago, and the Callis family, thank you for honoring my father, Reverend R.A. Callis. After April 4th, 1968, assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, 2 days later, as Community Project Chairman of Raleigh Middle School, Reverend Callis found, organized, and led San Antonio's first official Martin Luther King Freedom March to keep Dr. King's legacy alive. With security from the San Antonio Police Department, Reverend Callis marched on foot, leading 7 other marchers down Commerce Street to the Hemisphere Plaza, where San Antonio's first Martin Luther King Wreath laying ceremony was held. Reverend Callis and his Youth Conference for Community Progress accomplished many major Eastside improvements through the city, such as bridges, drainages, signal lights, parks, sidewalks, city jobs, etc., because Reverend Callis said the East Side had been neglected, unlike the North Side. Reverend Callis also found all Martin Luther King celebrations in San Antonio, Texas, Martin Luther King Park, Street, Week, Plaza, statues, scholarships, and more, including Martin Luther King holiday. It was Reverend Callis who conceived the idea of the Martin Luther King holiday, presented the idea to State Representative G.J. Sutton. Eventually, the bill was signed into law as a national holiday by President Ronald Reagan. Thank you. Guess that was my father, Reverend Callis. One very sad day in 1987, Reverend Callis received a letter in the mail of incorporation from the city of San Antonio, Texas, which stated the city had taken the Martin Luther King March and all Martin Luther King honor celebrations from Reverend Callis. That was very shocking and painful for Reverend Callis because he didn't see it coming. He was hurt, devastated, humiliated. His pride was hurt, and so was his legacy, including Black history. In 1997, the East Side citizens asked that Reverend Callis be honored with his name on something for all he's done for the community. Then Mayor Thornton and District 2 Council Lady Dolores Lott honored Reverend Callis by adding his name to a bridge, the bridge Reverend Callis found, and also named it Freedom Bridge, meaning freedom to cross to the other side safely. Reverend Callis was so happy. 6 months later, the next District 2 councilman took Reverend Callis' sign down, replacing it with Martin Luther King's name in Reverend Callis' place, leaving San Antonio with 2 Martin Luther King bridges. When my father saw his sign being taken down on the news, Reverend Callis had a stroke right in front of me and my mother, which left him mentally, visually, physically impaired, very depressed, and throughout, he continued to have many strokes until he died from a massive stroke, a broken man. Thank you. I love you. God bless you.
Our introduction of our speaker will now be given by Travion King.
Good afternoon. My name is Travion King, and it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Thomas W. Dorsch Jr. is a Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of TWD Industries. He earned a BA degree in sociology and pre-professional social work from the Fort Valley State University in 1972 and a master's art degree in criminal justice administration from Clark Atlanta University of art degree, and attended Georgia State University as a Ford Fellow in the urban administration. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Thomas W. Dorsch Jr.
For those of you that don't know, Mr. Dorsch is an Omega, and Travion is in the Omega fraternity mentoring program here in San Antonio. So this is history here.
Well, good afternoon. I know there's a lot that needs to get done, and I'm not going to be here all day, but I am really pleased to be here with you today as we celebrate one of the greatest men who ever walked the face of this earth. He went through a lot of challenges, but of course, he knew he was doing the right thing. I've had the great honor again of
knowing his father, knowing Ambassador Andrew Young, who married me in his home 34 years ago, Dr. C.T. Vivian, which I fund his foundation, who turned 95 years young a few months ago. I've worked, of course, with a number of other lieutenants, Reverend James Orange and all of those. The amazing thing for me was on the day that Dr. King was assassinated, was the day I was taking my senior trip to Washington, D.C. I graduated from high school in 1968. I was in the last segregated class of my city in Toccoa, Georgia. And when we got to D.C., of course, Stokely Carmichael with his infamous Burn Baby Burn on the campus of Howard University. And we were all, again, faced with a curfew in D.C. But the thing that I remember is throughout this nation, there were those who were angry. There were those who retaliated. But the important thing for us to remember, that Dr. King was like our modern day Moses. He, again, led a movement to ensure that this nation would live up to its promises of the Constitution, to make sure that every person had the right to enjoy those guarantees of our Constitution. And his efforts weren't just for African Americans. His efforts were for all of God's children who have been left out and left behind. Now, I wrote a speech today that I was going to use, but I'm not going to use it. I came here today to come from the heart, and it's very important that we all live and, of course, speak the truth. And the truth, again, as you say, know ye the truth, and the truth will set you free. There are those today who are in basically denial of what's going on in this nation. I want to, first, before I go any further, I want to thank Ivor Freeman and my members of the 100 Black Men of San Antonio. You wave your hand because these brothers have been part of my family. I want to thank my Omega brothers and for the work that we do and the mentoring you do. I also, 30 years ago, I received my 33rd degree as a Mason. I want to thank all of my Masonic brothers. And I want to thank all of you. It's very important today as we're here. Now, one of the things that my mother, who lived to be 96 years young, who transitioned 2 years ago, she always taught me, as my father did, was, son, speak the truth and speak your heart. So let me apologize if I step on any toes today, but what I have to say today, if it touches you, then maybe your toes need to be stepped on. Let's be clear here today. Now, we're not here today just to have a ceremonial gathering. This is to really celebrate the work of a great man. And we forget in this nation, had it not been for his nonviolence approach, this nation would have lost hundreds of thousands of lives in this nation from bloodshed. But you have to give credit to Dr. King and all of his great lieutenants who gave their bodies, who were beaten, who were stabbed, who were shot, and some were even murdered in the fight for us to have the opportunity to enjoy the rights that we have today. Our Constitution said that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, and should have said women, are created equally and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It did not say for just white folks. It did not say just for people with money. It said all people. And so what we have to do, and I want to make sure you send a message to Washington, we want government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we've got to stop this nonsense. Let's be clear. This is not about Republicans or Democrats. I served 16 years with U.S. Senator Sam Nunn. I was the first African-American state director for any U.S. senator, and he happened to be a senator from the South. But this mess going on in Washington is not about Republicans or Democrats, and Republicans need to get their act together, and Democrats, and represent the people of this nation. This president that we have, who has tried to drive a wedge between the people, we cannot have that. And you cannot make excuses and defend what is going on in Washington. And folks, if you're a Republican, I'm sorry, but you cannot defend when you don't have a person representing the people of this nation. This nation, the most powerful nation in the world, was not built for an individual. It was not built for people to make their money. It's a nation that we all help to build. And this mess about people going home, our brothers and sisters, our Native American brothers and sisters welcomed us in here. And now look at where we are today. And so, when my sisters and brothers, my Hispanic and Latino his sisters and brothers too, we cannot turn our backs to this mess that's going on. This nation was built by opening the doors of those who have been left out and left behind. So let's talk about that. Now, it's one thing that I told you, my mom told me I always speak the truth. I will never, ever, ever sing the Star-Spangled Banner. I will stand, I will salute the flag, I will defend this nation. But Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner at the Battle of Fort McHenry. If you read the third stanza of the Star-Spangled Banner, it celebrates murdering slaves who came back to this nation to free their families. When slaves were able to escape slavery in this country, they went to Canada. And in Canada, they gave them refuge. They could stay in Canada and would not allow the slave owners to come and take them back. The Battle of Fort McHenry wasn't about trying to come and defeat America. These were former slaves who came to this nation to get their families, to free them and take them back to Canada. We have been miseducated about the British. The British soldiers came with the former slaves. And the Battle of Fort McHenry was about trying to free the slaves. Francis Scott Key was a slave owner. If you read the third stanza of the Star-Spangled Banner that nobody ever sings or read, you'll know the true story. And it's amazing in this nation, when Tim Tebow could kneel for his protest against abortion, and he was celebrated. But when Kaepernick kneels for injustice in this nation, then people want to talk about him and he's blackballed in America. We need to be truthful about where we are today. And we also need to understand in this nation, there are those of our color who are not of our kind. But there are those of our kind who are not of our color. All black folks ain't for us, and all white folks ain't against us. But you know what? When swimming in shark-infected waters, you treat all unidentified fish as sharks. Now let me bring it on home too. It is important for us to understand here today that we must now understand that Dr. King wasn't just a dreamer. He had a dream, but he was more a visionary. He saw a nation, a world where his children and all of our children could live up and enjoy this great nation. A visionary. We talk about the dream when we need to get up off of our assets and do something about making life better for all the people in this nation. Just as bad as racism is in this country, this whole piece of us thinking we're better than others, classism is just as dangerous to the poor people and our people in this nation. We should be about the business of helping to ensure that people in this nation can enjoy the most powerful nation of the world and can enjoy their lives. Why would you deny equal access to health care in this nation? Our taxpayers' dollars pay for the research for the drug companies to make all the money. Why shouldn't every American have access to health care? I am a 31-year survivor of one of the deadliest cancers ever known, adenocarcinoma of the small intestine. I had 12 doctors. Yes, I had Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and all of that, and I'm here. That particular cancer has a 92% mortality rate. I'm in the 8% that survive. But why should I survive? Because I have resources. Why should you survive? Because you got money. When all of the citizens in this country ought to be able to have access to health care. Why are we allowing all the multimillionaires in Congress who don't have to worry about it to deny our people equal access to health care? Why do we in this nation see the growth of homelessness in this country, and we're not doing something about the homeless people, which are almost 50% young people? Why are we not caring about them in this nation? That's what Dr. King and all of them fought for. So why are we sitting around enjoying the fact that we can go home and we're not doing something about all of God's children? And God does not make mistakes. He made, or she made, all of us the way that God intended, and so who are we to decide that God is wrong? So I challenge you today, don't just be here to celebrate. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's do something about changing America. My other challenge to you, today is the most segregated day in America. People go to their churches and sing to God and all of that great stuff, and the very next day they go back to work denying God's children. Now tell me what's wrong with that picture. We've got to address that. Now let me tell you what we need to do, because I'm going to talk to my black sisters and brothers for a second here. See, on the banks of the James River, there was this guy named Willie Lynch. This is over 300 years ago. Willie Lynch came to this country from the West Indies to teach the slave owners how do you control your slaves. And so Willie Lynch said you need a rope and then you need a branch. So you got to create fear. Then he said you basically pit the young against the old. You pit the women against the men and the men against the women. Those who live in the big house as slaves, you pit them against those who live out in the field. And so now you keeping us divided and keep the dissension. And then you put a white overlord over all them and teach that white overlord don't trust those slaves. And so you look at where we are now. He said this will control the slaves for over 300 years. 2012 was 300 years. And while we don't have the shackles around us, our minds are still enslaved because we don't acknowledge the fact we're God's children. We can do and be whatever we want. And we got to make sure in America lives up to its promise that all people of this nation, I pay taxes every year. I have 6 businesses. And I tell you, I sing, oh Lordy, when it's time for me to pay all those taxes to America. But I want those same tax dollars to come back home to communities to help people. I mean, I got a little bit of change from the tax break that the president pushed, but it's all the rich folks who got the money. You know, we got a little bit of change. I'd rather see that money going to help people instead of us taking that money, putting it in the bank and not doing anything. In this nation, you need to understand it's not the major corporations that employs most of the people. It's the small businesses of this nation that employs most of the people. When large companies begin to consolidate and buy up other companies, they downsize the company for greater profits and we lose jobs. We got to be truthful here, folks. We got to quit this mess and this insanity. And then we also have to understand my people. You can sit around and say, I prayed to God that I needed to make sure I got a job. I prayed to God to pay my bills. I don't know anybody, no person ever drowned and prayed to God but knew how to swim. See, God gives you the skills to do and be whatever you want to be. And instead of you working hard with the skills you've been given, you're up here praying for it. God ain't going to answer those prayers if you're not willing to work for those prayers yourself. And you need to understand that. God gives us the ability to learn. And by the way, our children, every child can learn. So if we're talking about government of the people, by the people, and for the people, we cannot have low-performing schools in our neighborhood. It cannot be great schools on the north side and failing schools on the south side. Because you on the south side pay taxes just like those on the north side. In Atlanta, as a matter of fact, those who live on the north side sometimes pay less taxes than those on the south side. I live on the south side because I choose to. I can live anywhere I want. But I am smart enough to know it was good enough for me. It was good enough for the folks before me. And I'm not running for my people. I'm staying at home. So I challenge you. I challenge you today. Don't just celebrate the great work of folks who made a difference. Don't forget the freedom fighters. Don't forget those who gave their lives. But they didn't do it. Dr. King died as a poor man. All of the money he got from the Nobel Peace Prize, he gave to the movement. I don't understand us today, people. We don't have to beg. I mean, right now, people complaining, well, President Trump is the president. You know, one of the reasons why he's there? 51% of black voters who were registered to vote didn't turn out, so you helped to elect him just as much as anybody else. In Michigan, over 90,000 people went to the polls and didn't vote for Hillary Clinton or Trump. He won by 11,000 votes. 90,000 didn't vote. You get what you get because you don't do what you have to do. People died for the right for you to vote. I can't understand why you can't take an hour and get out and go vote in the polls. You got to vote for good people. And don't just say, I'm going to vote for black person and leave. You vote for good government from every person going to represent your community. But it's on us. And so I've learned in life. I am 69. I'll be 70 years come April. I understand. I'd rather own my own little boat than to rent somebody else's yacht. I'd rather own my little house or shed it than to rent somebody's mansion. I'd rather build my own reputation than trying to be somebody that I'm not. And too many of us walk around here trying to be something we're not. Talking about eyes from the south side. And eyes with, listen, folks. People even tell me they want a Porsche and if you can't spell it, why are you trying to buy it? But look, when I went into business, my first 10 years, I never took a vacation. When I went into business, my commitment was to create wealth and create jobs. I have several people who are in business because I helped them get there. My employees, without them, I can't make money, and I treat them, again, like they're gold. Because what? These people help me, and too many people neglect the folks who help them to get where they are. And you'll learn, the same people you saw on the way up are the same people you'll see on your way down. So don't be so good and start thinking that you don't have to be answerable. Now, the other thing that we need to do, and we need to stop as I bring it home. I was given 15 minutes. I always set my alarm because I know what time it is and I want to wake up. But the other thing that we need to understand, we've been playing in somebody else's game for too long. They set the rules. They choose the playing field. They choose the officials who govern the game. And as soon as we begin to master the game, they change the rules. And if that doesn't work, they change the officials. And finally, if they can't make it work, then they change the whole game. And we're sitting around wondering what happened or what had happened. The issue is we have to create our own game. When our brothers, our brown brothers and sisters, and us black folks ever decide to unite, we earn $1.3 billion as black folks. Our brothers and sisters in the Hispanic and Latino community earn, $1.3 trillion, and they earn $1.4 trillion. If this nation didn't have our money, it would be bankrupt. Think about it. Corporate America, you can't give folks your money if they ain't giving back to you and your community. You got to hold people accountable. And get this, when you got somebody elected, don't matter if they're black, white, or whatever, if they ain't doing business for you and just say, I want a black person, then go find another black person who's going to do the job. Don't sit up and think, I got to put up with him or her because of the color of their skin. If they can't get with you, they don't need to be there. And you have to hold everybody accountable, people. And so, again, my whole issue to you, create our own game, create our jobs, create wealth, control our money, and make a difference in our communities. It's up to you. President Obama was one of the greatest presidents this nation has had. And you're gonna let people try to diminish what he meant to this nation. He inherited a government that was almost bankrupt. And when he left, the economy of this nation was stronger than ever before. Even today, you got a man who was in a year talking about what he did for the economy. Economists and those in business know it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to have an economic recovery. Your mayors and all those in these cities know it doesn't happen overnight. And then for folks to proclaim they're the greatest president ever. Folks, I worked in the Senate. I worked with some of the most phenomenal Republican senators and congressmen, as well as Democrats. I was there in the day when people worked together and reached across the aisle. This is our nation, not the nation of Republicans or the nations of Democrats. This is our nation. And if people can't understand that, it's time to vote them out and put somebody in that understands that, who's going to work for this nation. So I'll leave you with again, one last challenge. Do more, be more. Make a difference, and understand again that Dr. King and this commission, I really want to salute for keeping the word out and staying out front for what we have to do. Because we're not going to have a strong nation considering what we're facing right now. We've been here before. We've had the people who tried to divide this nation. And I will tell you right now, I totally believe that the majority of people in this country are people of goodwill. It's the empty wagons that make the loudest noise. We cannot tolerate those folks, the right-wingers who are out here. And this is the other thing before I go. I love children. In this nation, how dare you, in Congress, anywhere else, allow people with these guns, these weapons of mass destruction, talking about it's about Amendment 2 and it's about the right to bear arms. You forgot we had militias back then. We didn't have the powerful armies that we have. All right, keep your gun, keep your rifle, but there's no way to justify someone having these assault rifles around here that puts our police at threat, and that kills so many of our young people. And any man or any woman who defends that don't deserve to be in office. So you need to hold people accountable. It's not taking away people's right to have guns, but you know these are weapons of mass destruction. And if you won't protect our children, who will you protect? So I leave you to say thank you for allowing me to be here. I challenge you to be the best that you can and to understand that Dr. King was a visionary. The work that was done allowed us to be where we are, but there's so much more work to do. So sacrifice, invest your time, but make sure if you won't do it for yourselves, do it for our children. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask our City Council District 2, Councilwoman Andrew Sullivan, to come up and give us some remarks, and then it'll be followed by our Commissioner Keely Petty. And in a moment, we're going to have to get Dr.
Thank you so much. This is a wonderful, wonderful occasion, and thank you, Dr. Dorsch, for everything that you have said. Thank you for challenging us as a city, as a people, and as a nation. I stand on behalf of District 2. I'm your City Councilwoman, Jada Andrews Sullivan. It is an honor to stand before you. And yes, I remember when Reverend Callis put us as Martin Luther King Middle School at that time in something that was bigger than us. And we continue to remember his legacy. And even though his name was taken down, we never forget the dream and the mission that he put before us to continue. So thank you for being here on his behalf and on your family's behalf. We remember everything that he's done. I can tell you I was 13 years old and it was cold and we still marched. I remember that. I don't know why we don't have our schools involved in our march at this time, but we need to change that because that's what he did and that's what he stood for. So thank you. I know that a lot of us sit here today and we wonder exactly where we are going in District 2 and where we're going as a city, but truly believe that I speak not from a political stance, but I speak because this is the district that raised me. And I speak for a lot of people that were not able to speak before. And so, Mayor, I do challenge you as well to spend more time here in this district because we have a foundation that is immaculate and can continue to be that way with your assistance and your guidance and your help. So on behalf of the citizens in the District 2 of City of San Antonio, I thank you for allowing me and for electing me to represent you. I look forward to continually doing what is best for this district as long as you have me here. May God bless each and every last one of you. We will continue to dream, believe, unite, and do. Thank you.
We have to go. If you guys be brief, because I have to get Mr. Dorsch to the airport, so you need to be brief.
Mr. Dorsch, thank you. All right. My name is Barbara Garvin Hawkins, State Representative District 120. You're sitting in my district. That was a great message. And I'm challenging my folks today. Let's live up to that message. Let's not let Mr. Dorsch leave today and we don't move forward. So I'll see y'all on Monday ready to work, okay?
Come on, dreamers, put your hands together and let's thank God for the dream. Come on, I don't hear it. I need you to celebrate the dream like you won the lotto. Come on. Thank you, Mr. Dorsch, for that incredible message, that message that we will not forget. And that message will help continue to stir the dream. My name is Dr. Keely Petty, and I serve as chair of the MLK Commission. Come on, let's clap it up, clap it up. I'm reminded of a passage of scripture that says, "Great shall be the company of women who bring good news." That is from Psalm 63:11. And it is my hope and my desire that as we move this dream forward, that it will become great news for the next generation. I want to go piggyback off of what our incredible speaker spoke. He said that we have to be challenged. So I want to ask you, how many of you bought a cell phone with you today? Come on, lift them up, hold them up high. I want to see all the cell phones in your hand. Hold them up high. And I want you to get involved in what we call Text to Dream. Text to Dream will help support the scholarship fund. Every year you come out here, you participate, and you don't know that it takes dollars. It takes dollars that you have in your pocket, your Churchy's chicken money, your Jack in the Box money. You have funds that you can contribute to Text the Dream. So as your phones are out, I'd like you to text to 210-879-8779 so that we can help the next generation fulfill their dream. You determine how much you want to give. Again, text to DREAM 210-879-8779. Thank you for participating, and we'll look forward to you supporting the dream and our scholarship fund. Have a great day. Don't leave, okay?
I know I've been a little bossy today. I'm going to ask Mr. Dorch to come up so we can present him with just a little love gift. Well, more than a reward, award. But yeah. And then we're gonna escort him to the corner because he has to get on the airplane. He has another commitment tomorrow. So I'm gonna ask you guys, please don't stop him on the way out. Once we do that, we're going to start the Wreath land presentation. And what I would like to do, I'd like to have the mayor start off laying a wreath, Congressman Hurd, Senator Menendez, all of the elected officials that have wreaths for you all to come over here. City here is going to help you.